we're bringing you all you need to succeed in the real estate business. It's Spilling the LTea, brought to you by Lawyers Title, telling you what it's really like to work in real estate.
Welcome back to another episode of Spilling the LTea. I am your host, Tamera Gaede, with Lawyers Title here in Frisco, Texas, and I have with me today two of my favorite people on the planet. Stacey Feltman, she is with the Stacey Feltman Group at Ebby Holiday Realtors. She is a top producer for the entire brokerage, and she's been one of my valued clients and friends for several years now. So welcome, Stacey. Thank you for coming today. And I also have with me John Yacos. He is with the John Yacos team at Supreme Lending. He's also one of our valued partners, and I wanted him to come in today and help also have a great market discussion, and that's what we're going to do today, right?
Looking forward to it.
Let's talk about the market.
Ready.
Let's talk about the market. Okay, so I wanted to start, and I usually don't like to carry paper with me, but I had an article that I wanted to quote really quickly, and it'll just kind of jump things off for us today, okay? Monthly home value growth has slowed from its record-breaking pace this summer. Inventory is up for the fourth month in a row, and more sellers are cutting their list price. This all points to less competition for home shoppers, but make no mistake, the housing market remains clearly tilted in the favor of sellers. And this is a quote from an economist at Zillow named Jeff Tucker. And then also we've seen articles start to come out for appreciation value predictions for next year. And the one that I saw for DFW was projected appreciation of 21%, and then Austin 36%.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. I think that came out of the Dallas Business Journal, if I'm correct. So it's local, obviously, information that we're getting, and it's not some national news group that might just be looking at us as an outlier. But no, that's a local group, and I'm not sure where they got their information from, but I'm looking at the same data.
Well, don't we all have a crystal ball?
Yeah. Well, and I don't think any of us can really put a finger on what the actual percent will be and what actually will happen, but I think as just a general understanding, you don't need to have an economics degree or work for Zillow or whatever it is. As long as we have more people moving here than we have leaving, you're going to see appreciation go up, because you're looking at a finite resource, which in this conversation is the housing market. And so there's X amount of houses that are available for Y amount of people that are coming here. And so as long as that is tilted in our favor with more folks coming here, I think we're going to be in a pretty good market.
I agree. Stacey, anything to kind of throw in there?
COVID actually helped. So we had the East and West Coast people that their kids couldn't go to school. We have a lot of workers that are working out of their house now, and they saw Texas open up. So with the no state income tax and everything like that, and the good weather, more months out of the year than these other places, they're all relocating here.
Well, let's back up a second. Let's talk about today, right? So we've seen a bubble, a market bubble this whole summer. Did sellers miss the bubble?
No. That's my opinion.
I'm aligned as well. I don't think sellers have missed it. You might see some stuff on Zillow or whatever you utilize online for your home searching, or through your realtor as well, where you have price reductions. We also need to take a look at what the initial list was. I mean, if this was a seller that was just shooting for the moon to see if they could get it, well, then that's probably not a very good sample serving to take a look at with the reduction. So, but they might be just coming back down to what par or what average would be. So I'd say we just need to start taking a look at those things. We're also in the period of the year, historically speaking, last year was an anomaly where folks don't want to move. And so there's not as many buyers that are trying to get into a home over the holidays. I know if I'm a seller, that's great if somebody wants to buy it over the winter, but I'm not going to have the same amount of buyers I'm going to have in the spring and the summer. So you are going to have a little bit of a reduction, just naturally speaking. And that's not just this year. You can look back for decades. Historically speaking, November we're kind of cooling off. December, nobody really wants to move. January is dead, and then February we start picking up again for the spring season.
Well, with my group, December is actually a huge month because
fair enough.
people are relocating to get their kids into school in January, in between after the holidays and everything. So you brought up Zillow. So what happened with Zillow, all their listings are price reducing right now and price adjusting. They went in, they bought it, the iBuyer system, 6 months ago, did subpar repairs or updates, and then jacked up the price. So now they're selling for a loss of what they did and why they're leaving the marketplace right
What's
now.
that going to do for inventory here?
So
anything?
We're going to have potentially buyers, right now our sellers, are listing where the market deems necessary. Instead of 20 offers on the table, we're having you maybe 8 to 10. Instead of 10 to 20% over. We're having, 2 to 8% over. So the market has changed, but it's a great market.
With the Zillow and talking about the local piece, I don't think anybody can frame that just yet because we don't know what the exposure is here locally. At least they haven't produced it. I know nationwide there are about 7,000 homes that they're selling off. They're writing down about $500 million on that debt.
It's incredible.
It's a huge number.
And it's been all over the real estate news right now is Zillow pulling out of the iBuyer program and their losses that they're going to be taking because of it.
Correct. And I think their model, and again, I'm not inside Zillow, but I think from at least what I read on Bloomberg is that they're looking for institutional investors. So your retail investor, i.e. the local buyer here that's buying primary residence, probably not going to be getting those directly from Zillow. So I think Zillow is going to be going institutional where they'll buy bricks, and by whoever the investor is, will buy blocks and bricks of these houses and then sell them to the retail investor.
Well, and that's the predictions for the forbearance properties too. When those finally come available, is that they're not going to be available to the individual buyer, that they're going to be bought up by REITs and institutional investors, and we'll never see them hit the local market.
Right. Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that. I think that's exactly what we're talking about. It could also turn into long-term rentals, and so they just wouldn't even be for sale. So
bad for investors. Although I did contract on a house, so let's see if I can get another investment property.
Perfect.
It's very difficult in this market right now to find things like that. I mean, I've just kind of hung up my hat. I try something, try it when it comes through, and you take the loss on the option and the, inspection fee, inspection and all of that, because it's not for whatever reason it hasn't worked out. But that's been a really big deal. I mean, not just buyers can't buy houses, but investors can't buy houses. Right. And it's such a great time for an investor to have a house because of the rental
market.
But you can't have one without the other, right? So that was one thing that we've talked about a lot too, are the skyrocketing rental rates here locally, and that a lot of renters are having to get into properties, apartments or houses or whatever it is, and they're paying way more than they would ever pay for their mortgage payment. And so this market has just been so aggressive for so many veins of the business, right?
We're having multiple offers on rentals.
I had 100 applications.
Oh yeah, and I mean they're going over list price. So our list price is now suggested list price, and that came from
this is the base where we're going to start it out.
And we say that all the time. We're going to list your property here, but that's just the suggested list. And that's what rentals are too. I mean, they're going huge over.
They are going huge over. That's why I want more.
Yeah, and none of our investors, when they take a tenant, they used to want the 2 to 3 year tenant. Now we don't want that. We just want a 1 year lease because the market could change again.
Well, and with COVID restrictions still in place, I mean, I've got a lot of investor friends that are only doing month-to-month leases right now because they can't get people out if they stop paying their rent.
Right. And I've gone through that. I've got a small portfolio of rentals. So we've got some affordable housing up in Kansas City and 2 fourplexes, and then we've also got some single-family properties down here. And the fourplexes were the ones that were not performing as well. But the way I was able to navigate that is, to your point, with the eviction moratorium that was going on last year through this year. I mean, if somebody makes the business decision not to pay, I have no recourse. So the way that you're able to work with the existing understanding of what that guidance is that if they go past when their lease date expires, then you can go after them for breach of contract. Not to say that you're going to be made whole, but you can at least get the person out. And so you can get somebody back in paying and then obviously make yourself whole again. But it's a very long, drawn-out process, for sure. So when I hear about rent rates going up, I'm totally fine, because I had some folks that were making a business decision last year where their rent was 0 for X amount of months. So I'm okay.
The business decision.
Yes. That's what we call that, the business decision. Well, you know what? I don't think John's going to get his money on the 1st this month, and we're going to go with that. But either way. So, I hear you on that. And rental, I think that's a great opportunity just to kind of go back to what we talked about with the appreciation in this market, where you have folks that can't buy a first-time home buyer home anymore. It's $200 and $250, generally speaking, at least for my clients, because it doesn't exist. And so they have to get into these rentals because they can't afford it. And we were talking before the show about having co-signers come onto the loan. So now you've got mom and dad or grandparents coming on to the loan to help out that first-time home buyer, either cover their debt-to-income ratio or come with a family gift so they can buy the house.
Well, let's jump into buyers. So, are buyers winning? I mean, are first-time home buyers winning offers? Are veterans winning with their VA loans again? Are we seeing those kind of transactions getting accepted? I had a client who said that he was able to win with two VA offers in the last couple of weeks. I think that's a great sign of things maybe freeing up a little bit, right? We have to be very careful here. We want Texans to be able to buy houses in Texas, and
Correct.
we want first-time home buyers to have an opportunity to get into a home and start a family. And some of these crazy market conditions haven't really allowed for that. So let's talk about creative ways that you guys, both of you, are helping buyers get into homes. Stacey, you want to start with?
So we've done VAs and FHA through the whole entire market conditions, and you're probably gonna add into this, but you can't do appraisal waivers with an FHA or VA, so that's where they thought they had to leave the market. But if they have cash flow, we can change the third-party financing condition and show them. A lot of agents don't understand that, and so when we're submitting the offers, we're having to tell them, okay, we can't do an appraisal waiver, but if you look at the third-party financing, it's under what we're offering. So, we just have to, buffer it through that. And you probably have different programs.
Yeah, very similar to that. And so, at least in the state of Texas, in the third-party financing addendum under paragraph 4, a lot of real estate agents, and just to kind of capture your point on that, just don't have the education. And same thing with lenders, some just don't understand it, is that we can still go forward and offer above what the list price is to be competitive, because that's what basically a lot of folks are running into, which is exactly what you were talking about. The seller just says, no, I don't want to do this because your offer is great, but it's above my list and I don't think it's going to appraise. So we're going to go with this conventional loan over here, which is a little below yours, but they've got the ability to waive the appraisal on it. So in paragraph 4 on the third-party financing, and just to capture it all, let's say that if we're selling a house for $100,000 and we're going in at 105, there's that $5,000 delta there. So purchase price 105, but then in the financing addendum, you just say it has to at least appraise for what you listed for, which is $100,000, and you're totally fine. You complement that with a proof of funds for at least the $5,000. Then yeah, it's totally fine. There's no issues with that at all. It's just a matter of educating people. And so when we've got an FHA or VA, then I'm working with the buyer's agent, I always call the listing agent just to make sure we understand, because a lot of folks, the second they see a government-backed loan, hard stop for them. So let's talk through it, very well qualified, and here's how we're going to do this. And if you can make your client, i.e. the seller, an additional $10,000, why would you not do that? Frankly, I would fire you if you were listing my house and turning down a higher offer because you didn't understand. So.
Is that winning offers?
Yes.
Because cash is king, right?
No, so
Cash is not king.
No, well, it is, but on all my listings, I'll tell you, I have cash offers, I have conventional, FHA, VA, a lot of the loan programs. My sellers are actually taking the loan programs over the cash offers.
Tell me why.
So, they think because they're cash, they're, can not go in as high or lower than list price, but on all of our offers with our listings, we call out to the lender first thing, Monday morning before we execute, and we learn about their capability financially, what they have, and that's why it's so important to be close with the lenders and everyone in this process of accepting contracts and everything.
So when you're working, or one of your team members is working with a listing agent that's less experienced, that doesn't necessarily understand what this means, how are you working with that listing agent to
We educate.
You have to be careful, right? Because some people aren't receptive to education.
Right.
So are you having positive conversations with listing agents about what this actually looks like when they're leveraging financing?
Well, I'll tell you, the number one thing in this crazy market right now is if I don't hear from an agent and I'm just getting an email of a contract, no communication, that's like a red flag to me and the sellers, So I tell my team and everything, make contact with those listing agents, explain the situation of the third-party financing to what you're doing, because it's not just about what's in paragraph 3 of what you're offering. It's the other terms within, are we doing courtesy lease back? This is how much that is. So, they don't think of those things, or we're waiving, a home warranty. We're, as the buyers, paying for title. I mean, we just did a contract the other day and they said, well, how much is title? And I was like, oh my word. I'm like, it is $4,386. And, but, so they need to know that. So it's not about just what's in paragraph 3 is offer price.
Well, and we've talked about that before, buyers understanding terms of the contract, right? Because now with this new HOA addendum,
Yes.
That's capturing a lot of fees, potential fees that buyers haven't necessarily paid before. And so that brings a whole new expense into the closing costs, right? Along with what the title policy costs and the fact they're not getting a home warranty and all of and how much money you're having to put down or to compete or whatever it is. And so those conversations about what those terms actually mean as far as what you're going to be looking at for closing costs are really important.
Absolutely. So we do a spreadsheet just so they know all those terms.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the HOA, you put on it 100% and not explain it to your buyer. Ooh, that could be a big expense depending on what subdivision in what city.
Especially new construction. New construction can come with some serious costs on HOA because they're starting the HOA. There's no escrow account that they've already got primed. So you, as the first-time home buyer or new buyer, I guess, in this community, could be $1,200, $2,000, just depending on what the community is.
Well,
and it's the line in the tall grass. You have no idea what that is because if you don't read the paperwork on the front end, which is what you're talking about, well, gee whiz, here comes the settlement statement, and that's a problem. And I'm usually the first one that gets the blame assignment as the lender because I
What's
usually
that charge for?
Well, did you see me on your HOA council? The answer is no. All right? I did not put this together. I'm just merely the messenger, so feel free to kill the messenger. I've been dead 10 times today, let alone historically. But so to your point, the HOA stuff does add up. And if you've got somebody that's pretty tight on their basically on their money at closing, that could be a problem.
Well, and congratulations to Trek for not only putting this into place, but also starting a list of HOA communities on their website, along with the fees associated with it. So now it's publicly disclosed knowledge, and there's one place that you can go to. I think it's rolling out in December, if I'm not mistaken, is when or January is when they're going to start publishing that list. But the new thing, the newest thing right after that was the PID addendum, right? PID, mud, sud, PUD. And so that was another thing that they've put into place is this new PID addendum. So there's a disclosure needed, right? If you're living in a PID. I live in a PID. And I can tell you there's a lot of confusion about it. And I'm not going to throw my builder reps under the bus. But at the same time, I don't know that they're all disclosing this to the buyer. And if they are, I'm not sure that the buyer really understands what it means. Okay. Right. And so we have a neighborhood Facebook group, and you always know who the newbies are because it's like nobody told me the Salina water bill was going to be so high. Who has a cleaning person? And oh my good grief, nobody told me what is a PID. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it actually looks like to the buyer over the life of, it's a 25-year spread, I believe, is what it is.
Generally in the 20s, to your point, but something like that. So as a lender, I cringe when I start hearing stuff from the agent that's going, hey, we might be under contract on 123 Elm Street, and then we look it up, and there's a PID on top of an HOA, on top of the standard property taxes. So for somebody, especially first-time home buyers that are already tight on their debt-to-income ratios, which we use in the lending industry for qualification, that can certainly push them over the top. And now when they were qualified in County X, they're no longer qualified for that same loan in County Y because of all the things that we've already mentioned on that. And that's a problem, but nobody likes to hear that from me. Well, John, you said that we were qualified at 250. Well, yeah, based on this payment that we talked about, this same loan has this payment now because of all these things that we were talking about, and it's a problem if you're not educated going into it and understanding your numbers. So that's why it's a team effort. We kind of talked about this slightly earlier, is that the realtor and the lender have to be on the same page. And so if the lender is not producing a cost estimate, anybody can get on their phone and get like with a Rocket Mortgage and have a pre-approval letter or conditional approval letter in 3 to 5 minutes. That doesn't mean that the buyer knows what they're doing. They just have a piece of paper with their name on it that says they can buy a house up to $500,000 or whatever it is. That doesn't mean they understand what the payment is or the cash to close. So that's why, at least at Supreme and on our team, we do cost estimate analysis up front based on a particular area, and we make sure that the realtor is aware of that as well. So here's our numbers. So if HOA is above whatever we have in our estimate, we just need to talk about it again. Nobody's saying no. We just need to talk about it again to make sure that we're all on the same page. And you as the realtor get the deal done. We as the bank obviously can give them the financing that we committed to up front. And we don't like to go back on our word, which is why we're very deliberate about the process at the beginning.
Well, and we were talking about contract termination. So Stacey, I'm gonna bounce this one over to you. You know, we're seeing a very aggressive amount of contract terminations. And we talked about your partnerships, right? Your partnerships with people in the business are going to help make sure your clients get to the closing table. So why don't you expand on that for us a little bit?
So dealing with kids, so as a listing agent or a buyer's agent, that has to be disclosed right up front with the listings. So, you know, if a buyer all of a sudden doesn't get that PID information, that is a termination clause because it could affect. So as a listing agent side, I like to have actually my pre-approvals from the buyers coming to my listing with the address. So you as a lender, you know, knows and does their research.
Smart.
So, you know, I look at that as a listing agent. So, you know, terminations 1 to 4 are falling out. I think it's because what's happening is the buyers are going in and they're making 3 to 4 offers on a house because they just want one under contract. So if 2 accepts them, they accept one and they terminate on another. You know, we have buyers that, you know, are overpaying, getting scared, talking to their lender the next day and saying, oh my word, can I afford this? And maybe something comes out on the lending side. There's different ways for, you know, terminations to happen. That's why we like to make sure we have a concierge with our boutique of Stacey Feltman Group with lenders checking to make sure they're financially capable, to going to you and saying, okay, what's the HOA on this? You know, pull up the title commitment, give them the title commitment right away. We work all together in all aspects to get our clients. That's what we all are here for. Get to the closing table.
And as a team, we might not like each other on the team, but we're all at least a team going for the same end zone.
Exactly.
Well, and I can't tell you time and time again, I'm hearing about these lenders that aren't local, right? And the problems that come along with using a lender that isn't local. And everybody, all the buyers, they're looking at the rate. That's all they're looking at is the rate. And what is 0.03% difference of a rate equate to in dollars on the mortgage payment if you can't even get to the closing table?
Correct. Yeah, and we have that conversation. It doesn't matter if they're going to give you a 0% loan. If the money doesn't show up on game day, i.e. closing day, it really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. So you're going to pay more in fees and costs and whatnot for not meeting your financing contingency timeline or missing closing altogether because your earnest money is gone, generally speaking. You've already got money in with the inspections, the appraisal, and you're in for a pretty good chunk that you're going to pay just because you wanted to save 1/8% on an interest rate. And so also just talking about communication with an out-of-state lender, and I'm not saying all out-of-state lenders are bad, but obviously I'm local. I like to stay local here with my people, is that what happens when you call that person and they don't answer the phone? Like, tell me. I mean, because if it's 3 days before closing, you don't know what your numbers are, if you've been approved. I mean, you're waiting on some guy from California or insert wherever. If he doesn't answer his phone or respond to an email, you're kind of stuck.
Well, how about a text, which is much easier? I have your cell phone.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
See, we need cell phones. I mean, because we're altering on properties over the weekend. So you have an online lender with a cheaper rate. I always say, let's look at apples to apples, you know, because a lot of those low rates, they buffer in their fees that, you know, a client wouldn't know when they're looking at it, you know, a good faith estimate.
We're all borrowing money from the same billionaires out there. It's just how you're communicating your costs, whether you're going to have additional loan costs and a lower interest rate or a higher interest rate with no costs at all. It's going to be the same, generally speaking, at the end of the day, or very close. So, but yes, to your point on taking the cell phone, that's my third wife, if you will. Like, we've got just some stuff going on at dinner, like, and I've got an agent trying to get on the phone with me about, well, okay, I'm not going to take a call, but I'll at least answer this about whatever. So yeah, the cell phone stuff, it is cool, and it allows the consumers and the real estate agents to be in touch with who's giving them the money, so they can ask those good questions, so they can be informed again before they put their name on a contract.
Well, and look, the ones that came to play, they're answering their cell phones, right? I mean, I won an $800,000 contract from a realtor because I texted her a lender referral at 8:50 p.m. on a Wednesday night. and I was awake. So what was
Right.
the big deal to send a quick text and send a referral, right? And she was in a hurry and she had a tight deadline, and so I wanted to make sure that I took care of it.
Yeah.
And so this is a service industry. We're all here to serve our clients, right? And add value to what they're doing. And so if we're not and I'm not saying you're supposed to text somebody at 11:50 p.m. at night. If I'm awake, I'll text you. If I'm asleep, clearly I'm not.
Right.
And Stacey and I have different hours. So,
yeah, no,
but at least my escrow officer, Jackie, and Stacey have the same hours.
Oh yeah, no, I'm texting early morning. A client texted me at 1:50 a.m. last night.
Ooh.
I was up.
Ooh.
So I respectfully did not reply back. But I mean, we have to, agents to lenders have to be, it's a service industry. I mean, you get those messages, hi, we'll get back to you on Monday morning at 9 a.m. or it's 6 p.m. on Monday through Friday,
Right.
we'll get back to you in the morning. I'm like, my head wants to explode.
And look, you do have to set on boundaries,
You
right?
do.
Because everybody deserves work-life balance,
Correct.
right? So nobody's saying that you have to be all things to all people all of the time.
Right.
But there has to be a balance because we are in a sales and a service-driven industry.
Right.
And so you have to make personal decisions about how you want to conduct your business. You do have to be careful. I think, agents have to be very careful in this market right now because they do have clients that are on Zillow at 2 o'clock in the morning looking at properties.
Right.
And if you respond to them, you're setting that precedent.
Absolutely.
Right? So boundaries are important. I think there's a balance between the person who says I'm returning phone calls from 11 to 1 and 4 to 5, okay? and what we do, right?
Right.
But you can be successful and have something in the middle. But again, this is a service industry, and we all have to kind of remember where our dinner comes from.
Yeah, I agree. I can tell you there is a high correlation between people that are emailing and texting and calling me in the middle of the night to somebody that is not very well qualified for the loan.
Yeah.
Poor planning. We've got some stuff going on. We're in the middle of the night figuring stuff out. Like your more well qualified folks schedule calls and are a little bit more deliberate about their stuff. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but that's kind of a correlation that I've seen over the past 5 years.
Yeah.
No.
So kind of shifting gears a little bit before we wrap up, I want to talk about kind of what you guys are looking at doing for 2022 because, this is the time where we're all supposed to be goal setting and doing our business plan. I just got my marching orders on my business plan last night, and I'm like, there's like a bunch of pages here of things I have to think about, but it's all necessary, right? And so it's starting the wheels turning about what do I want my business to look like next year? What do I want my life to look like next year? There's no indications that our market isn't going to be the same here. And so how are you guys, I'm not saying reinventing because I don't think that's the right word, definitely not the right word, that's too aggressive, but what changes or things are you going to take on in your business next year to continue to evolve? Any thoughts?
You want to lead on that? Or?
So I'm personally hiring more agents. I have a team of 12 right now. I need more agents on the ground. I'm also hiring a third admin. All my admins are realtors in themselves, just so they're knowledgeable and there's no lawsuits coming down on us. So
Make note, everybody.
Yeah.
Stacey's looking for agents and admin staff. So if you're needing some help in your real estate business, it might be a good idea to reach out to Stacey and see if you can join her team.
So I'm ramping up and getting more agents. I've already hired a third admin to take over our marketing division, social media, video, podcasts. A lot of our buyers are now millennials, so they're on the social aspect. So I'm doing that, and of course, we're getting back together, and creating our education in person with our team and everything, because you always have to keep on educating. The market shifts constantly, so I have to kind of update my team of what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's actually part of what we're doing for 2022. And personal opinion, but us as a species, the reason that we're at the top of the food chain is because we have the best balance of intelligence, i.e. education, and then also just with our ability to have physical strength. So what we're looking at doing, what I'm doing at wrapping up this year, getting back in the gym, getting out and running, and being more deliberate about it. So what you were talking about before with the work-life balance, like you wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning, immediately on email, you just don't find time for yourself. And that rolls over into the work environment. Well, a healthy brain and and healthy body is going to go a long way in the workspace. It's going to keep you in the workforce longer, and overall, it's just better for you in general. So those are two things that our team and myself individually are focusing more on: self-education, and then also physical fitness and becoming just a better whole person. And then last but not least, we are also increasing our team as well. I like to be able to sit and talk and have these conversations, but if you're the one-man band, you're trying to talk to 15, 20 people a day or however many applicants that you have, you start having some reduction in what your quality conversations are. And so by having a longer bench, which is what you're talking about doing as well, that are qualified folks like real estate agents or in my business, loan officers, they can talk interest rate, they can talk loan programs, and they don't have to have 5-10-minute calls and they've got to move on to the next one. And so that's what I think has made our team pretty good, is just having that person-to-person interaction, being able to have those deliberate conversations. So by basically having a more robust team, we'll be able to get back to some of the basics that we were doing a little bit better previously before all this business started coming.
Yeah, because I look for someone with core values versus skills, because you can teach skills. You can't teach someone the core values that I instill with the people I hire in my group.
Right.
Well, and you guys are kind of unique, and you're very unique in your approach because they are family to you.
Correct.
And so when they come on board with your team, they are.
It has to be the perfect person, perfect personality. We have a lot of diverse personalities, but we know what we need to be out to the public eye.
Right.
And it's representing the brand.
Well, and there's only one of you, and you can only do so much. Right? And so you have to be able to offload or delegate or whatever you want to call it. But and you have to be careful with the relationships that you have, right? But you can't manage all of your relationships. That's why you develop a team, someone that can help you keep those relationships going, but also is a perfect extension or the best extension of you that there can be, right?
And it works both ways, too, for the team member. I mean, we're talking about, at least for myself here, it sounds like, oh, John, you're building yourself up. Well, we're also bringing all the folks with us. So as a new loan officer, a new real estate agent, you're coming to the market cold. You don't have a whole lot of understanding of what you're doing, just like any job. It doesn't matter if you're an agent or loan officer or insert whatever career field. It's your first year. You don't know what you don't know. You need to have that education, which is what's going to be brought by the team lead. And you're also going to be getting some deals because the team lead, who has been in there for X amount of years, has got the referrals. You as the new agent, new loan officer, don't have anything. So it's great to start out in a team so you can get the education, so you can also start putting some food on the table because you're getting these deals. You might not be getting the full commission or the full pay on it, but guess what? Something is better than nothing, which is what you probably would have had as an indivical agent or an individual loan officer.
Well, but let's keep in mind you're also not paying for marketing, and it's not your name, and you're not paying the broker directly, and there's all of these fees that go in, and that's the really kind of the hard part about what consumers see as far as commission is concerned, because they think, oh, you're getting $15,000. No, you're not getting you're not getting $15,000 or $20,000.
1% to the broker, the team lead, to Uncle Sam,
And the agents on the team don't carry any of this responsibility, or the loan officers. It's you that's carrying that responsibility. So, well, we're going to wrap up here today. Stacey, John, thank you so much for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to get to spend time with you. I hope you guys enjoyed our latest podcast. Make sure that you go onto our YouTube channel and all of our social media channels. Like, subscribe, share, and just watch, because we're going to continue our podcast with all things real estate related. I'm Tamera Gaede, and I hope you have a great day.